and welcome to this video. Today we are doing something different from the usual stuff on this channel. I'm at North Perry Airport and it will serve us as a base to discover Miami from above. And of course I put a lot of animations into the footage, and along with my commentary I hope that you get a good impression of what Miami is like. But what's the exact plan? We start just north of Miami and after takeoff we fly straight to the coast, where we will pass Sunny Isles Beach with all its skyscrapers. We then move further south along Miami Beach with the Ocean Drive. Other landmarks include Fisher Island, Key Biscayne and Stiltsville. Next we'll have a look at the greater downtown area with Brickell and the Central Business District before passing the port of Miami as well as the Bay Harbor Islands, after which we change our direction to the west and head back to our point of destination in Pembroke Pines. I can promise there's a lot to see, so let's board the plane. But before that, let me summarize the main facts in an info animation. The whole tour has a duration of roughly 45 minutes and we will cover a distance of approximately 80 miles using a Cessna 172N operated by Miami Plane Tours.
Ready.
So, do you want to take some pictures before?
Yeah, maybe I just have some footage of the... While the pilot performs his checks, let's jump into the satellite view for my usual taxi animation. North Perry Airport is located in the city of Pembroke Pines. Our parking position that we have just left can be found at the southern end of the airport. And now we are taxiing to runway 10 right.
10 right at Bravo, clear for takeoff, 73, cross our hill. Your voice is not doing good today, eh?
With 3,255 feet, the runway seems quite short compared to the ones that we all know from the big airports. But as you can see, this plane really doesn't need a long runway. Depending on various factors, 900 something feet can already be enough. The Cessna 172 is a success story. Since the start of its production in 1956, over 44,000 of these airplanes have been built. For those of you that have lost orientation, there's an animated map in the upper right corner of the screen showing where we are flying to now. As I mentioned earlier, we are on our course to the coast. Now you see Miramar, the city where Jason Derulo was born and Johnny Depp went to school. Just like Miramar, West Park is part of Broward County, and those antennas transmit television signals. In the background you can now recognize the ocean and Sunny Isles Beach. Right in front of us we have Hallandale Beach, which is located between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. The Gulfstream Park is an entertainment complex that consists both of a casino and a racing track. It is owned by the Austrian and Canadian industrial tycoon and founder of Magna International, Frank Stronach. And the closer we come to the coast, the higher the real estate prices as a rule of thumb. That also means that you can see one of the driving forces of Florida's economy here. The real estate business has seen a huge boom over the past few years, which is due to many factors, but it all comes down to Florida being an attractive place to live and to work. So not only sun-seeking retirees from all over the US come to Florida, but also many international investors, resulting in a GDP of over $1 trillion US dollars, which corresponds roughly to the size of an economy like Indonesia. Golden Beach is an upscale community where a lot of celebrities and entrepreneurs such as Bill Gates and Tommy Hilfiger had or have a home. And right here you see Sunny Isles Beach with some very spectacular condominium towers. Most of these have been built in recent years, and some market observers say this may be another real estate bubble in the making, especially since Florida has a proven track record in that, which dates back to the land boom in the 1920s. But the risks go far beyond that. I read that this region has a very peculiar geology. The underground looks pretty much like a piece of Swiss cheese, and essentially salty water undermines the ground. Together with rising sea levels, it seems very likely that Miami will look much different in 50 to 100 years from now. But for the time being, that doesn't hinder real estate developers to create buildings like the Muse, which you see here. With 649 feet, it is the highest condominium tower in Sunny Isles Beach. The cheapest condo I found online has a size of 2,360 square feet and costs $2.5 million. There's a lot of traffic, so the pilot has to keep an eye on that in order to avoid any surprises. But so far, I'm very happy with this plane tour. It is really an amazing way to discover a place, and I can absolutely recommend doing it. This is Hollover Beach, and well, from what I've heard, that's partially a nude beach. Not that I'm interested in that, but just so you know what to expect if you happen to visit that place. In the background behind Hollover Beach we have Biscayne Bay, and Baker's Hollover Inlet is one of its connections to the Atlantic Ocean. You can see it right here. Now here we have Bal Harbour. Apart from a luxurious shopping center and some hotels, that's a pretty calm place that attracts a lot of wealthy snowbirds from the north. The town next to Bal Harbour is Surfside. Just like the residences by Armani Tower in Sunny Isles Beach, the Fancy Chateau residences are a real estate project where a world-class fashion brand plays a role in designing this development. And that has become a more or less global phenomenon in recent years. There are Versace, Armani, and fancy branded hotels or condos all over the world now. Okay, we are now somewhere in the mid-beach area, and at the very end there's the skyline of downtown Miami that we will pass later. On this occasion I would like to announce that this will probably not be the only video of that kind. I plan to make them about cities around the globe. And if you want to help this channel, sharing my videos would be absolutely great, as well as following the appeal that you see on the beach. Well, and now you will see a famous building, the Fontainebleau Hotel. It appeared in many movies, for instance in James Bond Goldfinger, in the scene when the British agent interferes in Mr. Goldfinger's manipulated card game. You can also see it in Brian De Palma's movie Scarface. In the background there's one of the largest hospitals in South Florida, the Mount Sinai Medical Center. It has nothing to do with New York's Mount Sinai Hospital and the med school, but it is affiliated with Columbia University. And by the way, apart from this channel, I also operate a blog which focuses on travel. There I share additional thoughts as well as videos and images of my trips that you won't find on this channel. I would be very happy to welcome you there too. The URL is travelmentary.tv. You can also find me on Instagram, but I'll admit that I focus more on my blog because I have more freedom there, and I find Instagram a little bit superficial, I guess. Nevertheless, I do share photos on Instagram as well. So if you're interested, you can find all links in the video description. In the meantime, we have reached Collins Park. I guess you could call that the cultural center of Miami Beach, with a museum, a library, and the Miami City Ballet located right next to it. And now we have a view of the unique Art Deco Ocean Drive, the heart of Miami Beach. There's a Mediterranean revival style mansion that I marked there. That's the Casa Casuarina. It was formerly owned by Gianni Versace, and that's also the place in front of which the genius Italian fashion designer was murdered in 1997. Today, the Villa Casa Casuarina is a luxury hotel. And this is the southernmost point of Miami Beach. Again, we have some oceanfront apartment towers here. I saw there is a 3-bedroom condo on sale in one of the Continuum towers with 4,973 square feet for nearly $19 million. So maybe that's a good choice, provided the property tax of over $100,000 per year doesn't scare you off. Anyway, right here we are crossing the Government Cut. And Fisher Island is what you see now. With all the stars that live there, that's a good opportunity for some aerial gossip. Did you know, for example, that former German tennis champion Boris Becker used to own a nice big property here? Used to, because he eventually had to give it to his ex-wife Barbara as part of an alleged multi-million-dollar settlement. So in Miami there are 2 quick ways of losing your home: a hurricane or a divorce. While Fisher Island looks like a nice place to live, one of its disadvantages is the proximity to Virginia Key, where a huge wastewater treatment plant is located. In 2017 there was a sewer pipe leak, and according to the Miami Herald, that stuff, you guessed it, reached Fisher Island. But mentioning Virginia Key only in the context of a wastewater treatment plant would be unfair. Virginia Key has a nice beach park, and beyond that there's the Miami Seaquarium that you're going to see later in the video. In the background you can once again see downtown Miami as well as the port of Miami. Key Biscayne is the next notable landmark that we are going to reach. It is connected to Virginia Key through the Bearcat Bridge. The island of Key Biscayne consists of 3 parts. Crandon Park is the northern part, while the village of Key Biscayne forms the middle part, and the Bill Beck's Cape Florida State Park, what a bulky name, represents the southern portion of it. While it is called Key Biscayne, it is not a part of the Florida Keys. And at this very moment we are in the northern part of Key Biscayne, which, as I mentioned, is formed by Crandon Park. What is known as Crandon Park used to be a coconut plantation in former times. And up until 1981 there was a zoo, which later moved to Miami and now operates as the Miami-Dade Zoological Park and Gardens. Fun fact, Richard Nixon had a compound here on Key Biscayne known as the Florida White House. There he spent some lonely hours as the Watergate scandal unfolded. The house was eventually demolished in 2004. As you can imagine, Key Biscayne is a quite exposed location in terms of hurricanes. That's why it's one of the first places to be evacuated in such event. It lies in the evacuation zone A, meaning that flooding from a storm surge is likely to occur. We have finally reached the southern part of Key Biscayne with the Bill Beck's Florida State Park. There you find the Cape Florida Light, which has a somewhat turbulent history. In fact, it was built twice, since the first lighthouse was destroyed. In front of Key Biscayne there's Stiltsville, another Miami icon. Built in the 1930s, many rumors surround the stilt houses. Some sources claim there was alcohol sold during the Prohibition, others say there was some gambling going on, which is why there was a police raid in the 40s. In the 60s, a businessman opened the Bikini Club on a yacht that was placed in that area. Women in bikinis would get free drinks, so it was essentially something like a party boat until the authorities put an end to it. Those days are gone, but what about today's Stiltsville? Many of those houses were destroyed by hurricanes, and at some point in the 90s their future was in question. But it was finally decided that they would not face demolition. If you guys are particularly interested in tennis, then you might recognize the stadium from the Miami Open. Until 2018, the tournament was held at this stadium, but then it was moved to a different location that you're going to see before landing. Adjacent to it, there's the Crandon Golf Course that you have already seen from a different perspective earlier in the video. Now we are making a turn to the southwest. That way we pass Virginia Key on the right side. Virginia Key is home to some scientific institutions. For instance, there's a subdivision of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and a facility of the University of Miami. A major tourist attraction, the Miami Seaquarium, which is known for dolphin shows, is also located on Virginia Key. At this point we are on our way to mainland Florida. Another landmark is the Miami Marine Stadium, which was closed in 1992. Before that, it was used for water sports, concerts, and even boxing. This footage also tells you how to get from Miami to Virginia Key and eventually Key Biscayne by car. The only road that goes there is the Rickenbacker Causeway. The next waypoint is Coconut Grove, the oldest inhabited neighborhood of Miami. There we make a turn to the north to Brickell. Here you see a National Historic Landmark, the Villa Vizcaya. This mansion was once built by James Deering, an American industrialist of the late 19th and early 20th century. As it is a museum today, you can visit it and have a guided tour. Alright, so this is a part of Brickell which can be regarded both as a residential area as well as the financial district of Miami. 100 years ago, that was much different. Brickell was what Miami Beach or the Venetian Islands are now, a place where rich people have their homes. To some extent that is still true today, but less with regard to mansions. Instead, there are sky-rise luxury apartment buildings. Now you can see Brickell and Brickell Key. From here, our flight path leads us to the port of Miami, where we are going to make a turn towards Miami Beach again. So this flight is far from over, there are still a lot of interesting landmarks to see. On the left there's the Intercontinental Hotel, and I can share my experience as I've been there once. I think it is rated with 4 stars. The rooms were a little bit worn out, but overall it's okay, and the funny thing is that they have a light show on the front of the building in the night, which you can see in the upper right corner of the screen now. Not so funny is the price for the valet parking. The fact that it is pretty much the same in all of Miami's hotels lets you think of a good old cartel. Now we are at the part. If you ever come up with the idea of making a cruise in the Caribbean, you are going to board your ship from this terminal. Palm Island, as well as the other Biscayne Bay islands, feature some of the most beautiful homes in Miami. That has already attracted Al Capone. In fact, his house is still existent, there's just another resident. Here on Palm Island you can get a nice house for something like 10 million US dollars, but if you want a real Tony Montana style home, you would need to triple that amount. This is Star Island, and that's actually exactly what it is. All kinds of celebrities live here, and if you're a computer gamer, you may recognize all those little islands as a place called Starfish Island from GTA Vice City. On this side we have Miami Beach again, just from a different perspective. The convention center hosts the yearly Art Basel. In 1964 it was also the location of the Muhammad Ali vs Sonny Liston boxing match, which was obviously way before my time, but maybe somebody from the audience remembers it. As mentioned, I would like to make more videos of that sort. However, please don't forget this is the first of that kind, so I am still experimenting. This time I decided to show you nearly the full material that I recorded, so I didn't really shorten it, because I love aerial footage and I assume you do too. But maybe in future I will make the videos shorter. But well, we will see, I haven't made any decision on that yet. Okay, we are in the area around the Olita River State Park. We'll fly a little bit further north and then we're going to change our course to the west towards Miami Gardens. At this moment we are back at Hollover Beach and Hollover Park respectively. So if you can't get enough of the skyrise buildings of Sunny Isles Beach, in a moment you will have another opportunity to see them. Sunny Isles Beach itself is a considerably young city. Development started somewhere around 1920, but it was a long way until it reached today's relevance. Over the years, the business models changed. In the 1950s and 60s, there were a lot of motels, which today don't play a major role anymore, as you can imagine. In the early 2000s, construction of those oceanfront towers started, and apart from some interruptions, this has been an ongoing trend. At this point we are crossing Biscayne Boulevard. I also marked the Aventura Mall, which is the third largest mall in the United States. Remarkably, you can get there by bus from downtown Miami or Miami Beach, and this will cost you only $2.25 and a lot of time. Nevertheless, that's a very competitive offer in my opinion. With the Metro Rail, which brings you from the airport to the town, and the free Metro Mover, I think that Miami's public transport system is above US average. With that being said, I would still recommend to have a car if you visit Miami or any American city for that matter. And talking of transport systems, I have listened to your requests and tried the Brightline train, which is one of the videos that formed the mountain of unedited stuff, but I will release that video pretty soon. The place under us is Ogus, I guess that's how it's pronounced. Last time they counted, some 18,000 people lived there. In case you want to leave Miami for a cooler place, you can jump in your car, look for the Interstate 95 and drive all the way up to Maine. Okay, as shown on the map, we are somewhere above Miami Gardens, a city in the north of Miami-Dade County. That also means that this aerial sightseeing tour is coming to an end pretty soon. However, there's still one major landmark to show. Remember the location where the Miami Open used to take place? Well, that tournament was moved to the Hard Rock Stadium, which you see right here, and for the most part it is used for American football and not tennis. It serves as the home stadium of the Miami Dolphins and the Miami Hurricanes. Okay, now we have made a turn to the right towards Miramar. In the background you see one more casino with an adjoining racetrack and Florida's Turnpike, which is named after the former American President Ronald Reagan. That road ends in Wildwood in central Florida. Well, that pond looks a bit unhealthy to say the least, but that's not the main point. The main point is that Johnny Depp went to this school right here until he dropped out to become a superstar. Let me add a few words about the operator of this flight. So the company I'm flying with is Miami Plane Tours, you can just Google them. They offer a variety of scenic flights in and around Miami, both on planes and on helicopters. This was one of the longer tours, and I must say I had a very good experience with them. The pilot was great and had a lot of knowledge about Miami. Okay, we are still above Miramar and North Perry Airport is within sight now. At this point we are aligning with the runway, so let's see where we are going to land in the satellite view. So we are back in Pembroke Pines now, and the runway we are landing on is the same we used for takeoff. It's 10 right. For landing, let's switch to the front camera again, which is fixed to the window. And let's accelerate this part a little bit. The road in front of us is the South University Drive, and the building next to it, on the premises of the airport, is the Broward County Mosquito Control that operates a plane in its fight against those insects. And as it was a quite windy day, the pilot had to counter-steer a little bit in order to keep the plane in line with the runway.
Very Grand Cessna 738 Foxtrot Yankee. We're getting taxi back to Hollywood at Delta. Taxi straight ahead to Ram 73.
Alright, so that was the first video of the Aerial Sightseeing series, and I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I would be very happy about your subscription, and if you have any questions concerning the video, feel free to ask them in the comment section below. And hopefully I'll see you at the next video. Have a great day wherever you're watching.